Hello and welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special. I'm Shireen Bhan and we're coming to you from New Delhi's Taj Mansingh Hotel at the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum Leadership Summit. It's an annual meeting that brings together CEOs from India and the US to talk about what is now being called the defining partnership, the defining relationship of the 21st century. A lot has happened in the past year. In fact, just recently at the Quad Summit, President Biden and Prime Minister Modi reaffirming the commitment to taking this relationship forward across a whole host of areas. Defense being the big one, AI, cybersecurity, biotechnology, semiconductors, all of them finding a mention in the agreement that was inked by the two leaders at the end of that summit. Well, to talk about where things currently stand and more importantly what the road ahead looks like, I have with me a power-packed panel here, leaders who know India, but more importantly who know where the money is heading into and how much of their own money they intend to put to work here in India. Joining me, a star panel here, starting with John Chambers. John, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Chairman of the USISPF. Mukesh Aghi, the CEO of the USISPF. Mukesh, many thanks for joining us here today. Amarjyoti Barua, the CFO of the Mahindra Group. Amar, thanks so much for being here. Bipul Sinha, CEO of Rubrik. It's great to have you join us on the panel. Bipul, thanks very much. Som Satsangi, the Senior Vice President and MD India at HP. Som, great to have you here. Vaishali Sinha, the co-founder of Renew. Vaishali, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us here on the program. Nick Deogan, a familiar face here on CNBC. It's good to have you here in your new avatar at Brunswick. Thanks very much for being here. And Sachit Ahuja, the president of Tillman Global. Sachit, great to have you join us on the program. John, let's get right into it. This is your 50th visit to India. How different is it today?
It's moving with a tremendous speed and direction. Each time, Serene, we make very optimistic comments that people say there's no way it's going to happen, and yet we overachieve it. When we had the vision 8 years ago to bring this together and say it would be the most strategic partnership in the world, people are now seeing that happen. And in just 1 year, it's changing what used to be 3 to 5 years. From a startup perspective, which is your passion, in the 127,000 startups in India, you begin to look at the number of unicorns created. It's the most fast-growing area in the world. Your IPO market is now 17% of the world's IPOs. And why that's important to the average person in India is you add your head count after you become a unicorn and after an IPO. So you will begin to see the investments, which went up 15-fold from 2015 to 2022, starting to repay dividends. But what you see in this panel is groups working together with tremendous speed. And Mukesh, I think I'd be underestimating to say how cooperative and how much of a win-win both the government in India's been at all levels, but also in the U.S.
Well, and I will get to startups and talk to Bipul about that in just a second. You're absolutely right. There has been a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of investment, and a lot of IPOs in 2024 with a lot of the new age startup companies being listed in the Indian markets. But Mukesh, just to pick up on where John left off, and you are going to have to use the microphone as well, in light of the aspiration of building out FDI from the US into India across different sectors, and of course supply chain has been the big area of focus, defense the other big area of focus, the announcement coming in on the first joint fab that will be set up here in India. What are the tangible steps that you believe have been taken between the last leadership summit and this one that will further amplify momentum?
So what we're seeing, Shireen, is a process where now companies are making decisions, where they're basically digging the grounds, opening plants, setting up global capability centers, making sure that India becomes part of the global supply chain. You have to understand there are multiple factors playing here. One is the stress point with US and China, where companies are saying, hey, I need to de-risk my supply chain. India becomes critical. India has made a tremendous effort to ensure that a lot of companies come in here. Yes, we're seeing them going to Vietnam, Cambodia, but India also provides a market. It's a $4 trillion economy, going to become a $5 trillion economy. So what we are seeing is market opportunity, manufacturing. The final factor I like to add is there's a shortage of skilled workers in the US. What we saw in Ukraine war was that countries which have industrial base are going to be effective in the long-term war anytime. And US has that limitation at the moment, and India becomes pivotal to be their industrial base, and that's why the chip plan partnership happening in other areas also. So I think India is going to play a pivotal role, both for market opportunity and de-risking supply chain.
Yeah, John, if I could just get you to pick up on that and elaborate on that a little bit further, because, Mukesh also talked about Vietnam and Indonesia and Thailand and so on and so forth, which have also set themselves up as alternative destinations to try and drive in the component ecosystem from China and so on and so forth. But from a manufacturing standpoint, why do you believe, or do you believe that this is going to be the moment where we finally start to see that manufacturing breakout take place in India?
I think when you look at the creativity that's going on in India and how close the government is India, working with other governments around the world, but especially the U.S., there's a huge importance of a secure supply chain. And at Cisco, my prior company, we started that partnership 8 years ago. And now you begin to see the supply chain committing to billions of dollars of manufacturing here.
With a recent facility coming up in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu. Yeah.
Yes, but you're seeing that across the board. The timing is right. You've got to catch market inflection points. You're seeing now with the semiconductor industry, also supply chain, so important to the future of a country, but you're also seeing the support start to occur. So you see the big semiconductor companies coming in terms of what's really possible, and you watch what an Apple does in terms of investment, a GE in terms of investment. So the timing's right, and I'm pretty good at inflection points. I have a lot of weaknesses. The timing is right on manufacturing. Is probably the most important element for job creation in India. So I think doing that across all of the 28 states becomes very important, but it's the right time with the right leadership to occur.
It's the right time and the right leadership, as John said. Amar, let me take that point forward as far as manufacturing specifically is concerned. And across the board, I mean, the Mahindra Group has its footprint across different sectors at this point in time. Do you believe that this is the big breakout moment on manufacturing?
Absolutely do. And one of the points that I think is in India's advantage is also the domestic market has become so robust. And I think whenever you're thinking about one country versus another, and you think about setting up a large supply chain, you also want a very robust domestic industry, because then you have an ability to flex up or down. And we are seeing that across our supply chain. You look at the auto business and the scale up we have done to meet the domestic industry, and then the transition we are making to EVs now, which are going to be for the world.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have this flexibility where the domestic industry takes care of any fluctuations in global demand. So I think that's huge. Also, the investment India has been making into engineering capability over the years, I think that places us really well in the context of what everybody is looking for, because it's not just enough to have parts of the supply chain.
Yeah.
You need to have full ownership of the supply chain. I think starts with engineering and R&D, and John and I have spoken about this a lot. One of the areas that I think India needs to continue to focus on to make this manufacturing, this inflection point a reality is really focus on that R&D piece, because I think that's where we are a bit weak.
But so let's talk about manufacturing and the opportunities that throws up and how HP is looking at it.
So let me add on both manufacturing as well as talent and R&D and innovation. And India has been the second largest employee base for HPE, and we have got 15,000 employees, and most of them are R&D and engineering and high tech. And with the new advancement happening in the AI, quantum, and all of those things, HP is really focused. And when our global CEO came a couple of years back, he made the commitment that we are going to be investing $500 million over a period of time in manufacturing, R&D, innovation. And we are really proud that we started manufacturing our high volume, high value server from 1st of March this year. And probably HP is the only US company who decided to go with a local manufacturer here. So VVDN we have chosen as a partner. We started manufacturing because, as John mentioned, India, we see a huge, vast potential in terms of the consumption of these product kind of things. And with the government AI mission, the strategy on the entire e-commerce, adoption of the various initiatives in the telco side and e-commerce side is really helping for the consumption to go very, very high. And we started producing, and suddenly it has been really great success. And especially now coming from the semiconductor industry and some of other industry are going to taking over. Probably it's going to be the best place in India not only for the consumption in India,
Yeah.
but how we can support the global manufacturing also and can be self-reliant kind of
So
thing. And
how much more does HP intend to invest in India in building out the manufacturing base?
Yeah, so probably I think there's one more thing happening, Shrivan, that we are in the verge of closing the merger with Juniper, and Juniper
Right.
is the largest telco in terms of their AI capabilities. And with HPE and Juniper coming together from 1st of November, which is the day of the day one, and probably we feel that it's going to be more and more investment coming, core technology and investment and R&D and innovation, and we continue to drive the more investment in the networking side as we complete the integration with Juniper.
Well, we look forward to hearing more from you on what life post the integration looks like. But Bipul, let me come to you and pick up where John left off on startups and how we've actually seen that ecosystem evolve over the last 2 decades. But more importantly, Rubrik's journey as well, and the focus on cyber resilience and cyber security, which is a priority area that both sides have agreed to work together on.
It's an exciting time for India. If you just look at the digital transformation of India, the digital focus in India, it's really opening up opportunities for companies to find local customers, find product market fit before they take the products to America or Europe and other countries. And that was not available before. So it's India's time has come as far as the startups are concerned. And what we are focused on, particularly in the Indian market, is that how do we secure that digital India? How do we secure the digital transformation of India so that businesses can transform themselves, create more productivity, deliver more services such as healthcare services to far remote areas with confidence that people have digital trust and ability to keep their services up and running and drive services like healthcare, education, because at the scale of India, digital is the answer.
Yeah.
And digital trust is the enablement of that digital service.
Well, absolutely. In fact, that is being called the big advantage. What we've been able to do on the digital public infrastructure is being held out as India's big advantage. But, I just want to understand from you, because there's been nervousness and trepidation on tech spends, Bipul, globally. And, of course, it hasn't impacted you because you've had a really good last quarter. But what's the sense that you get currently on spending and specific spending on cybersecurity and cyber resilience?
People are spending money. They are not retracting, but they are reprioritizing in the age of AI. So they are focused on AI-led productivity and how to secure AI. So that's why cybersecurity remains the #1 focus. And within cybersecurity, resilience has really risen to the top because everyone understands they can't stop attacks. So how do you keep the services up and running? So it's AI and then cybersecurity, and there is no real retraction in terms of investment, in terms of new projects, because ultimately everyone realizes that if they are not winning the AI war, ultimately they will not survive in the business, because AI is not about distribution, it is about productivity, and ultimately productivity is what matters.
Well, winning in an AI era, John, I know you wanted to jump in on what Bipul's saying, but also, the opportunity and the challenge it throws up for both India as well as the US.
Yes, I'm going to hit 3 points that we just covered. The first one is if you're a startup and you're not AI enabled, not just check the box AI, you're going to have trouble getting funded. And so what's happening in the expenditures, the CEOs around the world now have finally said, I realize AI is going to be my future, whether I'm in manufacturing, healthcare, government. And so they're sweeping all the discretionary funds over to AI. Cybersecurity should be growing at 30 or 40% a year. It's only growing at 14, and that might be a generous number, yet the exposures are there. Now, the opportunity between the U.S. and India isn't just to loosely work together. Most of the startups in the U.S., I've got 22 of them, have their second major headquarters here in India. And my startups here in India have their second major headquarters in the U.S. If we can learn to work together uniquely with the enterprise, with the capabilities that both countries bring, we can lead, as Prime Minister Modi said, in AI, America and India together, but in the approach. But the warning is you're not going to get funded very well if you don't have a large AI part of your architecture. Your evaluation with the same sales, the same profitability is probably half. So it's going to be an AI-enabled world. This has the chance to be India's decade of. But India must lead in AI, and I'd propose our country should think more out of the box on how to do this, including a sovereign wealth fund for AI coming out of India and the U.S. working together.